series. Let's see where Game 2 is going to take place. Tomb of the Spider Queen, chosen by Superstars for Game 2.
Superstars taking us to those small battlegrounds. Superstars loves to be able to do that for us here. And even in death, though, they've got to be happy. They are not afraid of the smaller maps. So both teams here so far have shown that the map selections, because they overlap so heavily, it's not hurting either side, at least not yet. But if you're Superstars, very thankful you can claim Sky Temple as a win over Even in Death.
Yeah, and although I'm looking now at the stats for Even in Death, they don't have a winning record on Sky. They played Sky so much throughout Part 1. It is the place where they had the most wins. 2 wins from that. Tomb of the Spider Queen, they're sitting at 1-6 so far. But if there was a time to prove the statistics wrong, it is now, Even in Death. As we get the draft underway for Game 2, Genji and Tassadar bans, Even in Death with first pick.
What do we assume to be the first pick here for Even in Death? It's going to be the Gray Mane for them. That has been a hero that has risen in power all over the world a little bit more post-international play. But he really just kind of is the jack of all trades. He's not terrible in any avenue, does not have any downsides, just a lot of positives. Well-rounded pick overall. So Even in Death here, keeping it vague after the first pick.
This is a place where Superstars were again willing to play Vala. They played it with Rhaegar, and this is far different than what they played before. I was going to say Leoric, but it's still another skeleton. This time it's Zool and Chromie.
Chromie for North America has been such a big go-to on all the maps where you have dominant laning situations. And then the Zool. So suddenly, if you want to counter push into the composition Superstars is going to develop, Chromie's there for the solid defensive, and then on the side lanes, you're going to have Zool constantly getting out the wave clear. Teamfight presence should be dropped a little bit, but there's a bit of synergy mainly between the Bone Prison and Chromie. You know, it used to be Li Ming on initial release because Li Ming and Zool were back-to-back releases. Everybody's like, look at the synergy. But Chromie has a lot of single target bursts too that you can rely on. As long as they get rooted for 2 seconds, throw out a whole rotation, and that is usually a dead hero.
A high Johanna, but it makes a lot of sense if Johanna is to be Even in Death, one of their primary wave clear heroes, making sure that they can get that. That's something that we would see from Superstars from time to time on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And getting Rhaegar with the Lightning Bond gives a lot of wave clear with that too. So now Even in Death are set up to make sure that they can keep up with whatever lane presence that Zool gives to Superstars. And we're ready for the next bans.
I feel like this Johanna compared to the Johanna of the last game for Even in Death, you know, one of these is not like the other is how I kind of view it. With Johanna on a big map, she's kind of just a health bar, you know, that sometimes is there to be able to help out. Sometimes her blind can gain effect. Condemn and Blessed Shield's pretty neat, but on smaller maps, she is suddenly a far bigger tool to be afraid of. I feel like for Even in Death, this is a better opportunity for them to see that picked here in this game. I'm a bit more optimistic now looking at that for them in this draft.
And having a great ranged as well as support and your warrior sort of limits what Superstars can hope to achieve with their ban. Superstars are going to focus on the solo lane hero, taking away Homicidal's Malthael. Or Even in Death, considering now a warrior for Superstars, trying to take out Arthas.
If the Arthas is banned here by Even in Death, that essentially is an immediate force into pick for Yoda, or excuse me, Urho onto the side lane. Because you are removing 2 of the highest priorities. Almost so much so that I feel like that would have been a counterintuitive pick for, or excuse me, ban for Even in Death. Turns out at the very end, they're going to go ahead and swap it right on over to the Stukov. Still pretty likely Superstars picks that pick up for Urho on that bottom lane, but not nearly as high, or at least must pick, as it would have been if we had seen that ban go through.
I wonder who the Zool is going to be.
My guess is Hosty.
Yeah.
If I was just a guest, whenever it comes to Wild Flexes, melees or not, usually Hosty's the guy who gets on top of it. Granted, this is a very different version of Superstars than in the past, but he has been that guy. It's been the Zarya, he's played the Falstad. He goes with the, I think even maybe in the past, I would be willing to argue we've seen him play a Tracer. That might be pushing it though.
So you think we'll still have a warrior for Daihu and then another?
Never mind.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is Zool going to be the solo laner? Is there any possibility for that? Or even just somebody maybe in a 2-1-2 so that Zool can move around and you stick that Malfurion and Chromie together? There's some different options now with Medivh too, but they get Malfurion again for Iacona.
I did expect the Zool to originally commit to the 4-man just because that is whereas Zool typically gains the most effect. I mean, let's be
Right.
honest here. We know his wave clear is outstanding. Why be stuck to one lane, right?
I feel like we always say that, and then he does end up in the solo lane.
You are completely correct. So I don't know why I assumed that it would be committed to the 4-man. And the Medivh pickup, I feel like only makes it that much more confident that it is going to, in fact, be a solo lane Zool coming out, because the Medivh locks in that you have a heavy 1-4 that you want to run. It kind of pulls away from the 2-1-2, but to be honest, now that you said it, I wish they had bowled away from the Medivh and committed to the 2-1-2. I feel like that playstyle would have been something they can abuse. But the Zool for the solo lane, Even in Death has to figure out what they want to be able to deal with that, and you know, all the other things that we see on the table for Superstars.
It's going to be Leoric for them again. They've done that before. And then a Lunara to round things out. Thoughts?
The Leo focusing on mainly at least having a high amount of wave clear onto the laning matchup into Zool is a huge priority, right? The solo laners essentially are kind of this complex game of rock, paper, scissors. And you have one angle at which you win. It's almost always through wave clear, survivability, and poke. And one beats out the other, beats out the other. Zool's biggest strength is wave clear, and that's the safest one as long as you don't lose too hard in the other two avenues. Leo, he trades pretty well. Yes, he can do the damage and maybe out-sustain, but the biggest thing is avoiding getting drained against the Zool. If you can avoid that, suddenly your lane and the success of your lane are, I mean, it is far greater than if you fail in that avenue. So I like the fact that they at least made sure that there is a wave clear to match into that Zool.
Now, Dread, we are seeing a Stitches, and this is the first Stitches we've had, I think, in all of Part 2 so far in North America. And it does seem like he has fallen off heavily in a lot of regions. What the heck happened to our Stitches?
I mean, you want a completely honest answer?
Yes.
I honestly feel like one of the biggest things is that Team Dignitas Okay, China picked up Stitches quite more frequently than they ever did, but China loves their own creative playstyle and meta across the board. Dignitas busted out. Everybody sees it. It's one-shot people left and right. They think that it's a must-have. It is good, yes, and it's one of the few things that can deal with double support by getting a random hook, pulling them in, getting a pick. Very few heroes can claim that for themselves. Dominant wave clear. We had nerfed melees left and right when it came to frontliners. Suddenly, Stitches stood out. Then, double support meta dies a little bit across the board. People start realizing not everybody can one-shot everyone like Dignitas can left and right. And they realize maybe Stitches isn't too high. I mean, that being said, I feel like he has gone from way too good to way too bad to way too fast.
It's weird.
It is pretty apparent that there is a misjudgment either before or now in terms of the power level of him. But I do feel like this is a bit more overreaction just based on everybody suddenly going, I'm not Dignitasing these people. And what I mean is just 100 to 0ing in a matter of 0.25.
Well, here he will provide a lot of wave clear to the members of Superstars, so let's see how it works out for them. We're heading into game number 2 on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Stitches was a very difficult thing for me to accept. If you even remember looking at North America when Stitches got picked more and more, I was like, you know, I'm still not sold on it, and I accepted it. And the moment I seemed to go like, Stitches has more value, especially in double support. Once I saw the double support meta consuming, I was like, I like Stitches a lot more. This makes a lot of sense. You can draw cooldowns from your supports that you couldn't be able to do with almost any other frontliner. But now, you know, he just is non-existent. And that is very, very, very surprising.
Well, here we have it with Daihu. We had some questions about Daihu, not necessarily his hero pool, but how much Superstars practice they had along with Daihu and what kinds of compositions they would be able to feel comfortable running along with him. But one of them was Garrosh. They played 3 out of their 5 games versus Lag Force with Garrosh. It's sort of a similar hero. Stitches has been around for a long time. Anybody who's been a warrior for a long time should be able to throw out those hooks, be able to come in or bring someone in for the kill. And there's a lot of follow-up behind that too with Iacona. But again, we have to see how the pairing of Daihu and Iacona will work out together. The communication is there for them to make sure that they can get those picks off of the hooks.
And the laning decision here coming out from Superstars is already shown to be a bit interesting. It looks like the Zool is questioning if he wants to commit to the 4. Hold up here up on top. Yoda being dragged in and then just bitten to death from How. That's going to lead to the first blood for Even in Death. And Superstars still questioning what they want their laning situation to be.
Yeah. We're just trying to figure out where exactly the members of Even in Death are going to be. Those body blocks.
How do you, like, you just hand off the keyboard, mate. You just accept your fate with the Great Wall of Even in Death. That was really well done.
They were like Gandalf right there. There's no way you could pass by that. 2 kills early on for Even in Death. That's got to feel pretty good considering all of the lockdown that Superstars has in their composition with the hooks, the follow-up roots from Zool, the follow-up roots from Malfurion.
Biggest thing I'm looking at is like I see a Zool on the other side of the table and I'm not losing the laning phase on a map like Tomb. I'm just like, how do we lose this game? We know his team fight's going to drop off. Post 10 heroics, like outside of a Miracle, Poison Nova, you know, he doesn't stand out too heavy.
And that's the brilliance of that early Johanna pick for Even in Death. And then being able to follow that up with a Leoric. But now Arrow's getting out there, starting to slice through the minions.
Slowly making his way out into the world, being the Zool he was born to be. Which, are necromancers born? Like, he's actually dead, right? Are they human in the past life? I don't know the lore of that, actually.
I don't know what a necromancer is compared to, like, a lich, but it would be sort of a reborn process into the sort of undead type.
So he's experienced humanity, though.
Yes.
Like, if you were to say, have you lived the life of a human for a day, the answer, in fact, would be a good old check mark.
I would imagine that to get those abs, you would have to live as a human for quite a while, go to the gym, get beefed up, and then do the undead thing.
You're probably right, but how do you get them to convert over to the afterlife?
Well, yeah, you would go exactly as you die. Or switch over, right?
Everything just comes with you to the afterlife. Today I learned.
Clearly, we need some help on our necromancer lore. Help us out. Tweet using the hashtag HGC. Let us know. Tag us in there, please.
When looking at Even in Death and the gems turned in, though, they are doing a very good job of getting that control. This has just been, you know, every single time we have seen Zool in North America after his rework, it seems like that is the case. It's just you're looking for the momentum to stand out, and it just unable to do so. I mean, let's be real here. Before his rework, if I saw Zool being played and they were unable to control the first Web Weaver phase, I would immediately go like, your odds just went from a coin toss to near zero. Because that is the main reason for that priority of pick.
Dodging it.
Need another.
Oh, he's gonna have it. He's gone. Homicidal, playing your favorite with Royal Focus. Let's see if Lingering Apparition follows suit at level 7. Last time we saw a Royal Focus on a smaller battleground, and can't remember if it was Tomb or Dragon, ended up not following Lingering Apparition instead of getting a Ghastly Reach for the increased range off of that. But since the lanes are so close together, makes a lot of sense to be able to vary that talent tier up.
Gems being turned in here for Superstars. It's a breath of fresh air with the Zool composition to be like, you know what, we aren't doing that bad. We got 43 in. Now it's at the point where both teams are actually totally okay with not securing the first Web Weaver phase. The reason you normally are afraid of it is because then you're defending. You're defending, your positioning is predictable. Your positioning is predictable, you usually lose gems, and that means no more turn-in arena. Frozen X, though, getting hit with all the combo from Yoda. It's enough to seal the deal there. That is another kill. Going over to Superstars.
Very well done with the skill shots of Hosty and Yoda to make sure that they could get that kill on Greymane. Both teams still hoarding their gems to the best of their ability until they can get that turn in. A lot of brawling and poking happening back and forth. And Superstars have been succeeding really well when it comes to Even in Death, sort of desperate to get those turn-ins because they have a lot of hard-hitting skill shots and people are standing still. It's helping Hosty be able to stack up Master's Touch. It's allowing Yoda to get some free damage in with the Chromie bombs. And then because they're standing still, Stitches is hitting a hook. Even in Death found themselves through the Web Weaver phase, the very first of this game. Again, into the Zool composition of Superstars. Superstars able to turn in 46, so they got to be happy with that, but they need to make sure that they don't lose any more here. I do want to highlight the level 7 picked up for Even in Death on Battery, the Johanna, going with the CDR through auto attacks rather than going in to the mobility on your Condemn. Suddenly removes the initiation opportunity outside of a Blessed Shield drastically from the composition of Even in Death. So much so that I feel like now Leoric has all the weight on his shoulders to be the initiator. Granted, they have the Lingering Apparition, which allows you to move at mount speed, which is a brilliant initiation tool, but we can't rely on Battery anymore to be the one who hits the go button for Even in Death. Yeah, it's always interesting to see Blessed Momentum since it is the weakest of the reworked battle momentums at just 0.5 cooldown, or 0.5 second cooldown reduction compared to other ones that we see like 0.75 or even ones post 1 second, but that just only affect certain abilities and not all of them. See how that works out for Battery. But for now, the turn-in phase for Even in Death was pretty fruitful. They took out a fort, they got heroic abilities. Superstars is not long behind that. With a perfect hook on Frozen X, uses the gate, or the wall, and gets out.
A little inconvenient. That side wall was so weak for Superstars. You know, I actually feel like I could write an entire, you know, hour-long book on just talking about sidewalls and when you take them, when you don't take them, and like compositional strengths. Like, think about if you're an Illidan. You almost never want your opponent to, like, you never want your team to take a sidewall because you always have an escape route, right? And it just makes it really interesting on, like, do we lose the vision for Greymane to have an escape in the mid-game, right? And that kind of trade-off you have to ask yourself consistently throughout this game. Superstars, the trade-off they've got to be asking themselves is, was it worth losing 2 Webweaver phases in a row? Not something we see, I mean, almost ever in the North American scene, seeing that stacked back-to-back, like Even in Death has managed to achieve here. Yeah,
Even in Death did that really well, especially considering the fact that Superstars had a lot of, again, abilities of being able to stall out a turn-in, but Even in Death found their opening and they took it. While we're watching this, too, I want to talk a little bit about the Zool because we did see some changes to Zool come in with the last balance patch that we're currently on. Health reduction for his skeletons means that he can't quite absorb the number of shots that he could before, and even changed up Traggle's Essence at 7, so you get less healing overall from when your skeletons attack. We are seeing a Cursed Scythe, or Cursed Strikes build with Grim Scythe, which is giving you some cooldown reduction, and then Harvest Vitality, actually, which gives him some more self-sustainability, which when we see Zool flank in from the side and want to drop down his heroic abilities, he can be a target, a focal point. And so for that, too, he also has Shade. We'll see if he wants to get Rapid Harvest to try to up his ability to do that even more with attack speed at 13, but it's interesting to see what build we're seeing, and seeing Skeletal Mages even though the cooldown was increased.
Not only the increase onto the cooldown, but normally you see Skeletal Mages with the intent to dodge a a major spell coming out from your opponent's side. It just doesn't seem the case considering the spells out from Even in Death. There are no, gravity lapses or something that you would need to dodge and consume those mages. And then your next would be like, well, you need to initiate. You only have Stitches on your team. I can see the thought process, but there's a Medivh that pretty much makes initiation as easy as could be. Also, Chromie accents it with the slowing sand. So I really feel like I would have liked to see the Poison Nova coming out from them. It seems like it would have had a lot more impact in teamfight for Superstars.
Yeah, maybe it felt a little too Wombo-y for them to have the ley line follow up with Twilight Dream, Slowing Sands, and then Poison Nova 2 from the side, and wanting to make sure that they had other options like as a disengage for them, especially since they were going to take Gorge to go along with the portal for a milk carton strategy. But I thought we were going to see Poison Nova too.
Yeah, it's a very surprising adjustment from Superstars. But it's not, shown to be a pro or a con quite yet. Gorge is used, Portal used, Blessed Shield though, deterring the members in the aggression from Even Death any farther. Leyline Seal bought a bit of time. And this is those moments where you're going to see initiation difficult. Entomb is going to be dropped though. It does end up hitting 2 squishy targets for Superstars, but they make it out just fine.
Yeah, it was a little too far in, and Iacona was the target inside of that Entomb, so not wanting to jump in on top of Twilight Dream. Now Frozen X was testing it, seeing if Iacona would drop that on down and Superstars could turn around and get the kill. Not using it though was Iacona. Superstars being very patient for their 13s before they get into the next engagement with Even in Death.
Initiations like that, I feel like does set Superstars ahead into the game. The fact that they didn't have to pop the Twilight Dream. We just talked about like a Medivh, a Zool, a Chromie. At no points do you look at any of those 3 and say reliable damage source, that you can depend on a specific target going down into a fight. They got pretty close to being able to win the fight, but they didn't have to use Twilight. The Twilight is the thing that will confirm a kill, set up or deny a pick at some point in time. That's not the portal they want, but with that route, it should be.
Blessed again, right?
They pop the Blessed, and it's not enough to deter Lutano, though, or at least the members of Superstars from killing Lutano. Cleanse is going to be forced. Nice Entomb coming up from Homicidal. Iacona almost going for the max range Moonfire there, but Frozen X Cursed Bullet is enough to scare him away.
I think it's important for Superstars that they're primarily trying to get the kills from the Hook Gorge combos with portals, and then for big 5v5 engagements, the minute that they use Leyline Seal or Twilight Dream, they better be getting kills. Because if you look at the heroic cooldowns for Even in Death, they're all really short. The only long one is Ancestral Healing, so as long as that is up, Even in Death can feel really comfortable continuing to get into fights. And we've seen one iteration now where using Blessed Shield has been able to stop Stitches from kidnapping Lutano away, and another time where it wasn't as able to do so.
Even in Death, getting the collapse around this mid web weaver, you could tell that they really wanted themselves that fight. They feel like maybe that this might be one of the few that they can depend on getting for themselves, but they are still slightly, and very, very slightly winning when it comes to that experience. Battery out a bit too far, cleanse is used, but it's too late. The Gorge is there, Portal shortly after, and I feel like we've seen this combo before. Everybody at home, you get how it works now. The heroes die, the Battery was the chosen one this time.
It was nicely done off of the back of that to Skeletal Mages and slow down How. And then the Leyline Seal, Twilight Dream to death. Frozen X will even be going down, and that's a triple kill for Superstars.
Superstars isn't done either. They still have this top web weaver alive. Even though it's not that healthy, it's enough to be able to throw out a few spells. And, you know, at max range here, sieging up on keep front walls, it does cleave multiple structures. So it's pretty effective at getting this damage out. Keep front wall obtained for Superstars, 16 talent here. And they have still quite a few gems in their hands right now. Not enough quite for a turn-in, but still a pretty impressive count.
Final health bar for the Web Weavers, not enough for Superstars to feel confident staying around even with that 16 advantage.
They just barely were able to, you know, tip over the scales. They're getting 64.
Just waiting until the eggs have spawned for the turn-in, and even in Death aren't quite 16, so they're not in position to immediately stop this. As long as Superstars start right away, should be able to get this.
Has to get his in though. He was the scout and the peel originally, so everybody else was able to get the turn-in, but poor little Hosey, nobody thought about the Raven.
And now even in Death are 16, they're stepping forward.
They won it. Homicidal is going to be the first one to start, but he's actually dropping the Entomb for this. He does have another Wraith Walk in a matter of seconds here, thanks to that Royal Focus. Iacona now seems to be the focal point.
Oh no, Homicidal has 24 gems.
No! Chromie damage, it's enough, but the gems are picked up. Portal is going to be used. Leyline Seal is available if the members of Superstars feel like they want to force this one.
Until the Auric is back though, even in Death, have to step back, and that gives enough time, seeing with Homicidal, that Superstars will finally get the next turn in, and they didn't lose too much ground from even in Death pushing the waves back. Should be able to clear these back up and continue the siege they had a few minutes ago.
They are going to be able to continue this siege here, and the top is that focus. Wisp being thrown around on that flank there from even in Death, not wanting to see the collapse of Superstars, but we know the top is going to be the concentration point here.
Fishing hook.
Rather than going with the pulverize, a lot more emphasis then, even more so, into that milk carton combination that has been pretty successful here for Superstars.
Yeah, it has. It has worked on somebody as soft as Lunara. It's worked on a Johanna too. But a lot of times you don't see the fishing hook unless it's more of a last-ditch effort.
Oh, look at the flank here. Even in Death found themselves some Superstars. Leyline's going to go down and only hit Battery. The portal is allowing the escape of Iacona. He's still, look at that, just portal in, portal out.
Still has Ice Block if it was needed, and it wasn't even necessary. Hook catches Battery. Battery's the one with all the gems. They go so far away from even in Death.
28 gems are going to be left out into the middle of the top lane. No one for even in Death even around to entertain the idea of restoring those gems back. And Superstars, as they're rounding out, level 19 is dominating this map. Tomb of the Spider Queen has been in full control. They're even now posturing for the boss.
They're setting up. They don't have a 20 advantage ahead, but knowing that the final Web Weaver to be cleared out is in the bottom, even in Death, do bring that down. They've lost the keep in this top lane. This boss is going to be trouble for even in Death.
It's a 15-minute boss, not enough to assume it's game over without another major advantage. Even 20 might not be enough. The traps. Anderhall
anomaly. 2 out of 3. Can Homicidal hit the third?
They already know the boss has been captured. Homicidal does not have a way out of this anymore, because they're going to try and force them into this choke. The Entomb through that after the portal being used. They're completely split. Superstars has to second guess themselves. Another portal. Ley line's being used to buy time. It only hits Homicidal.
does. Superstars mount up, but
Back's
not a way
range.
out of battery with the Blessed Shield. They're still slowing them down as the rest of Even in Death try to move in on top of the members. Skeletal Mages drop, and it's wrecking Hal.
And they end up getting Urho. Iacona's going to fall as well. Even in Death finds themselves in a situation where they take a miracle fight, and it's still succeed. I mean, maybe not succeed, but they don't lose in the manner at which you would expect them to. They held their own here against Superstars, and they are going to be able to extend this game a little bit longer here. It's still going to be a tall tale, though. That's permanent damage onto their core, and they land at 66%.
Greatest news for Even in Death. Not enough gyms for a turn-in yet for Superstars. Worst news, 2 full levels until Superstars can have 20. Those 2 kills were necessary to not lose the game, but Even in Death are by no means out of the wood. Once they can get their 20s, though, they have a lot of really big spikes. Leoric, Spectral Leech, Indestructible for Johanna. I already love seeing the Executioner plus Lunara combination. You've got unfair advantage from that, too, with the slows of Leoric and Rhaegar, and, of course, of Lunara herself. So there's some good combos there, but what do we got at level 20 for Superstars? We already saw the presence of Anderhall Anomaly. We've got Mortal Wound. Still waiting on Malfurion, but Hungry Stitches. Is he going to take all of the people back now through the portal?
I think so. As many as he can take, you know? Just be like, I'll take you, and then you can... I actually passed 2. It's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So maybe not, but they also have a Twilight Dream on the other side of the table. So it's one of those kind of, I don't blame you if you do, because we have this, even the extended route taken at 16 there for Iacona. Battery is going to be gorged. He's got Iron Skin still.
Yeah, but look out of the time trap, which is so well timed.
Homicidal can entomb if he feels like he needs to. He's going to be the decision. Ancestral Healing is going to land onto Homicidal. The skirmish and unfolds, but ends at merely just a skirmish. The end of it all. Enough gems for a turn-in, still 4 Even in Death. Not the same tale for Superstars, but it's if Even in Death can get themselves that 20 talent here.
Superstars is considering continuing a siege here at the middle keep of Even in Death, while they still have briefly that 20 advantage over Even in Death. But that is going away rapidly. Even in Death, because all of the lanes have been so pushed toward them, are catching up to 20. They're going to get another chance for a fight, Dread.
They are very much going to get that opportunity. In the last game, they held their own on those miracle skirmishes. We've already seen one in this game. But at the end of it all, they ended up losing the first map on Sky Temple, even with these miracle fights. They're even down farther now than they were on Sky Temple with 66% damage on the core. Blessed Shield's going to be the thing that starts it off. Daihu goes through the portal, traps hit, Yoda throws down the slowing sands.
Those traps are ridiculously annoying to the members of Even in Death, trying to aggress forward and catch somebody. They still have their eyes set on Yoda.
They find Yoda. Hosty's there with the save, though. Daihu's now the focal point. Gorge 1.
Slow, perfect slow. Entomb 2.
There's no portal available. There's a lot of damage going on to Battery. He needs to keep himself alive. Daihu falls low, but the force of will is there. He takes the portal, takes it back, and nobody falls. Superstars keep all 5 members alive.
It was a well-done Twilight Dream from Iacona to stop Ancestral Healing from coming out on Johanna, but Johanna just barely able to stay alive. It doesn't have Entomb for about 30 more seconds, but the main deal is clearing out this mid wave, because look at bottom and top. They are so far back. Mid is the place for Even in Death to try to open up a win condition.
Top is flat out going to die just to the catapults alone in that top lane. So bottom is the next most reasonable transition for them, but as you said, that is way too far down the road for them to be able to rely on. Mid keep has to fall here. Urho takes a bit of damage from Lutano. Homicidal and friends moving up there with the Leoric, but that Web Weaver ended up falling. Lutano eats a full rotation from Yoda, and that's enough for him to want to gallop away. Daihu goes through with the portal. Blessed Shield to try and freeze him.
He just has the one, and that one is Frozen X, but that's enough for Superstars to get a kill. 63 more seconds.
A
hook catches Leoric. Leoric is the better one to lose here, but even though he will be able to cheat death slightly, it's still a long time until Leoric will be back in action.
Leoric down for a long while here. And the members of Superstars, what do they want to make happen? 2 are transitioning towards top. We do not have the boss spawned quite yet, but in that window of defense, Superstars has accumulated enough gems for the turn in themselves. And I'm expecting that to be the concentration here. They are second guessing it though, and they're now wanting to move out. If they're going to end the game, it has to be through top. So they want a second keep in the window that Leoric is not dead.
And
but Gilly, this is a perfect situation. This is a dream for Leoric compositions.
Yep.
As long as we do see Battery survive. He's got no iron skin.
Look where he's at. He was keeping an eye on Yoda, seeing if he could catch one of those damage dealers.
Okay, so the initiation does not unfold in the manner that Even in Death maybe had wanted with Homicidal there. Greymane just coming back for 3 seconds.
Slowing Sands, trying to slow down so that Superstars off the back of this can still get
that trap was enough to make it to where we're going to see Homicidal can't make it in. He Wraith walks. He cannot interrupt Iacona. They're going to entomb.
Force of Will, Iacona. Portal sitting there, gets him out. Only Daihu left, he portals away. All of Supercharge safe, but no Web Weavers.
That's Entomb and Blessed Shield used on the side of Even in Death. All heroics except for the Skeletal Mages are still available for Superstars. Even in Death has to make like a boss miracle play or something here. They are closing in on a turn-in. I just don't know if they can make it the risky positioning long enough at this state of the game. Those hooks, that hook, eventually will land.
And every time it does, the portal is there, the roots are there, it's a guaranteed kill.
Initiation, Leyline used, Hosey goes through the portal, the root to follow up, Yoda throws out the damage, Battery's gonna be fine. Hook doesn't connect on a Homicidal.
Been loving the way that Superstars back off after something like a Leyline seal, after people get caught from the time traps, and then patiently waiting for the fishing hook to bring somebody in. That time it didn't pay off, but we've seen it pay off more times than I can even count.
A lot of pressure on the Battery. Iacona is way too low though. The Entomb, the Blessed Shield, the members of Even in Death might be able to do it. But the Force of Will and the portal keep him alive,
but
and he is out. Stitches and Zool are dead. Superstars is unable to take this late game fight, and it looks like Even in Death is going to be able to turn this game around.
We talked about it, the late game scaling of Even in Death with the Leoric, with the Lunara. Look at the way she's bringing down both of the remaining members of Superstars. They'll turn their focus to the keep, and now bringing that down, and with only Chromie and Medivh left, they are setting their sights on the core to even out this series and take us into game number 3 at a 1-1 score.
Greymane is the focus here for Hosty, but I don't think it's going to matter as Chromie goes down. Even in Death has done it. They even up this series against Superstars.
Game 1, nearly 30 minutes. Game 2, nearly 25 minutes. It is an all-out brawl, but it is one that both teams have a lot of respect for, and you could feel the fear and the importance of the series.
I do want to take a minute and look at how this game has played with Superstars. 2 games in a row, we still see the trend of when they need to force their advantage, are they able to force it appropriately enough? And on a map like Sky Temple, we saw that they were able to, be able to claim the win there. And Sky Temple's a map where win conditions, easy to identify. Debatably the easiest map to identify. Maps like Tomb, some of the hardest to identify, and Even in Death wins. Now we have to look at the map bans. Dragonshire is probably one of the hardest maps to be able to identify in a win condition. Who was the team who banned it? I didn't actually get to see. I actually don't know.
Dragonshire should have been Even in Death, I think.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Might be something that they regret. After watching that Tomb game and seeing how this is played 2 games in a row, Even in Death, if they were the one to ban that out, a map where it's hard to identify a win condition should be the weakest form of Superstars yet.
And it may have been swapped, but it's obvious that Even in Death is playing for the late game.
They are.
They feel like they are confident in their late game team fights. They have always been, as long as we have had them here in HGC, a team fighting team. Even in Death did ban Dragonshire, so maybe that is one that they will regret later on. But either way, we are 1-1 in this series as we head into a break. When we come back, we'll have Game 3. Stick with us.